Yeah.
عم بلارك ما كنتش مبينة
انت مبينة.
مبينة في حدا جنبك؟
Yes. Good. All right. Let's get started. All right, quiet down. Awesome. So today we're going to be doing a design workshop. And let's just go through the agenda. I'm going to need everyone to follow directions really closely because we're kind of short on time and we have a lot to get through today. So let's talk about the agenda. First, I'm going to give an overview. I know you guys have been doing, the design kids have been doing a bunch of design thinking, but for the CS students, we'll do a quick review. Then I'm going to present a real-world design challenge. So we're actually going to be doing a design workshop that handles a app design that we actually did at IDEO. So you guys are going to come up with a bunch of concepts. We're going to go through each of the 4 phases of design thinking and come up with a couple concepts. And at the end, I'll show you guys what we came up with at IDEO. So right now, I need everyone to break into groups of 3. I think it should be even. You can just pick the people near you. I think that's easiest. And you guys will need like things to write with and draw with. Cool. So with your group, we're gonna go through the 4 steps. You guys have done these 4 steps, right? Inspiration, insight, ideation, implementation. So we'll go through that. After that, we're gonna switch up the groups and you're gonna collect feedback from other groups, right? And finally, we're gonna build some presentations and I'll come by one to see what you guys have built. And then I'll show you guys what we came up with at IDEO, right? All right, so cool. So I really like this slide. This actually came from IDEO's official design thinking workshop. I stole almost all of the slides from there. So I think this kind of summarizes the central concept of design thinking really well, which is do, then think, and do, right? So it's kind of this iterative cycle of doing and thinking, testing, and then going back, using what you've learned to kind of do more and then learn more, right? So this is kind of the 4-step approach, right? So the first step is inspiration, right? Inspiration means you kind of find basic information that relates to the problem you're trying to solve, right? So let's say we're trying to design a new vacuum cleaner, right? An example of kind of inspiration would be collecting lots of information on what's already out there in the marketplace, right? So you might look at what's available in different stores, you might look at professional cleaning equipment, all sorts of stuff. Essentially here, you want to survey what already exists and use that as a starting point to become inspired, right? So find information, do research. Now, once you've kind of done that, you need to formulate what you've seen into insights, right? So that means take what you've collected here. This could be information like I mentioned, but it could also be user interviews, right? So you might go interview a bunch of people who use vacuum cleaners and collect kind of their thoughts, like what works, what doesn't work, what pain points do you have, right? Then you kind of take what you've learned here and turn that into insights, right? Like we realize that a lot of people complain about vacuum cleaners being too heavy. That might be an example of an insight. So you're really taking your research and turning that into insights, right? Finally, once you have these insights, you go to the next phase, which is ideation. Does this make sense to everyone? Any questions? So with ideation, you're taking insights and you're turning that into an idea, right? So in this case, if our insight was vacuum cleaners are too heavy, we might say, build a lighter vacuum cleaner, right? That would be an example of turning an insight into an idea. Does that make sense to you guys? Cool. Finally, once you've got ideas, you turn that into implementation, right? So if our hypothesis was, vacuum cleaners are really heavy, we should build a lighter vacuum cleaner, we then implement that, right? We build a prototype of a vacuum cleaner that's lighter, and then we test it, right? So now we go to the person who was complaining to us about heavy vacuum cleaners, and we say, hey, we built this lighter vacuum cleaner, try it. Do you like it? Right? And we collect feedback. So maybe they're like, hey, I love it. Maybe they use your new vacuum cleaner and they're like, oh, this is really light, but it doesn't have the power, right? So now you've learned something. And so you kind of repeat this cycle over and over and over, right? So research, you're observing, you're collecting data, you're understanding that, designing things, and then you're testing them. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Cool. And this process happens over and over and over, right? So we collect feedback, we build our prototype, collect feedback, and kind of improve based on what we've learned. Any questions? Cool. And this step kind of happens over and over and over, right? So we might start with some concepts, do this cycle, learn, do it again, learn, and we're kind of narrowing our set of options every single time till we get to the final product. So up here, we might be asking about very broad sort of things, like do we want a lighter vacuum cleaner? Do we want a more powerful vacuum cleaner? Here we might say, okay, we want a more powerful vacuum cleaner. Do we, do we want these features? Do we want, an extension so you can clean the ceiling, right? All those types of things. This phase we might be, what type of plastic do we want to use, right? Like how expensive should it be? What color should it be? So you're kind of narrowing the specificity here, right? Does that make sense to everyone? Cool. So, all right, we're gonna do our design challenge. And you guys feel free to use these chairs, right? Because we're gonna be working a lot, so it's okay if you guys wanna have like a hard surface to ride on. So the design challenge is, we have a client, right? Are you guys familiar with Sesame Street?
Yeah.
Sesame Street?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically Sesame Street has come to us. They want us to build an iPhone application that's compelling to users age 2 to 5, right? So kids. If you guys haven't seen Sesame Street, this is the
There's another picture.
yeah. Right?
3 years.
So let's all break up into groups of 3, and I want you guys to work on this step of the design phase. Yes?
Again, what's the application?
It's an iPhone application for kids ages 2 to 5. And we are now working on inspiration. So what we want is to collect this kind of data, right? An example might be, what are other apps that kids might use? What are popular children's toys? Sesame Street video clips, right? Behaviors of kids. There's a bunch of stuff, so just in your groups, kind of Google up some of this stuff and collect as much information as you can to inspire design. So I'll give you guys 10 minutes.
Can you give me 3 colors?